thing you're ever going to do. So you are going to forget things. You are going to make mistakes. I will put it on the board. We will help each other out next time. So I started with a piece of clay. I'm using high five clay for you guys this year. Very exciting. And I also have a canvas mat underneath because have you ever made pie crust and rolled out pie crust or cookies? What happens sometimes with the cookies and pie crust? It sticks, yeah. So this canvas mat helps, but it's not perfect. So when you're rolling out your clay, I do stand up and I roll on the canvas mat, but I also stop periodically. I pick up my clay and I flip. And we are attempting to roll our clay so we can fit our template onto the clay. So I'm gonna roll it long. Normally with pie crust, I would go this way now, make it more of a roundish, squarish, but this time I wanna keep a rectangle. So I'm gonna go long. But I always worry, like, what if I go too thick here? What if I go too thin? So there's a little hack you can do with clay or pie crust, I guess, where you put 2 pieces of wood next to it. So I just have little dowels. I'm gonna put the dowels next to it. And you'll see in a moment that they come into play. So I'm gonna roll a little, stop, pick it up gently and flip. Now I don't have a ton of rolling pins for everybody to have their own next time, so you'll probably just help out a buddy and then you give them the rolling pin. So I'm rolling, flipping, very exciting, right? Ooh, it's so exciting. Look, it's getting longer. Rolling. And eventually, it's hard to hear, but eventually you'll feel this more than hear it. I get to a point where it's gonna feel a little different and it's gonna make a different sound because the rolling pin is on the dowels. Do you hear that? And I do that so I can't go past the dowels. Like I can't make my clay any thinner now because it's on the track of the dowels. Because I actually don't want my mug to be too thin. So that's why we have the dowels next to it. And then once you get your clay, the thickness of the dowels, you'll take whatever template you have, put it on the clay, and you're going to use a clay knife to cut it out. Sometimes I kind of wipe it. Yes, you can cut yourself on this. Yes, I'm trusting that you'll be fine. And I go all the way from one side, cut the entire chunk of clay off. Whoop. Ready? Go from one side, cut the entire chunk of clay off. Make a stack. Diego, you're gonna like this. Oh. Cut the entire chunk of clay off, make a stack. Oh yeah, cut the entire chunk of clay off. Do the best I can, make a stack. We do reuse this. So Diego, this is where you come in. You're probably gonna like this a lot. I take my extra clay, not my mug clay, and I kind of put it in a ball. We're gonna save these. I have a bin over there that I put them all in. We're gonna use this to decorate, to make candles, to make other things. So save your scraps. Oh my God, don't throw these away. I know we threw away the paper scraps, but keep your clay. This is good stuff. Then we have to take this clay and try to roll it up. But I know you're not touching it yet. It's the equivalent of a piece of spaghetti. So we're attempting to sculpt with spaghetti. Not really, it's clay, but it feels like spaghetti. And that's really, really hard to do. And we want to actually attach these 2 skinny parts together. And even if I just kind of go like this, they barely stick. So what I'm gonna do first is on the ends, I'm going to scratch them. So I'm just taking my knife and pressing it in. I'm not really like cutting it deep, but I'm scratching it. I'll do the same thing on the other side. And that kind of makes it more like a puzzle. So before I did that, the clay was smooth, but now I scratched a little so it'll kind of interlock, like my fingers interlocking together. But that's not all, folks. We need a little glue on there. So I used my handy dandy blender I was telling Gavin about, and I blended up some clay and some water, and it's called Slab. You can make your own, but I made it for you. I put it in baby food containers, I'm sorry. 1 finger, lots of goopy thick slip, put it on the edges, goopy thick slip, put it on the edges. Very exciting. And now we're gonna roll it up, but you have a choice. Some of my students like to roll it up and then do the plastic, which I haven't even told you about yet. But some of my students like to take the plastic and put it on first. But this is the tricky thing. The plastic is always going to go on the outside. So if I'm rolling it up now, I can't roll it with the plastic on the inside. I actually have to pick it up. I'm using 2 hands. This is a real pain in the neck. And I'm rolling it together. So now I'm like getting down low, move the plastic out of the way a little bit. And I'm trying to push it together and it's not sticking. It's really frustrating. So I'm gonna use a wooden tool, and I like the curved side, and I'm gonna take my hand that I'm not using the tool with, so I'm ready. Take my left hand, and I'm putting my left hand underneath this little crack. And I'm going to try to pretend I'm a surgeon. I'm going to try to stitch my clay together, which is like one of the hardest things. I work with clay all the time, and this is hard for me. So if it's hard for you, you're completely normal. It might take you a couple tries. You might need a buddy. But I'm now holding underneath, I'm supporting it with my other hand, and I'm like really stitching it together, and it's looking gross and terrible and yucky, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, my clay, it looks gross and terrible and yucky. But don't worry, you can fix it later. And you're stitching it together. Has anybody here ever had stitches?
Yeah.
Do they look gross and weird and yucky at first?
Yeah.
Yeah, they look gross and yucky, but you'll heal. So you're kind of doing that. I'm going back and forth, like making little X's, pushing the clay together. I just made like a little hole, but that's okay. And I'm really stitching it up gross. Can we get a close-up on that terribleness? My hand is underneath. Do you see that? Because if I didn't, I would just be poking holes in my clay. And then I can cover it up with plastic. And this is really awkward because the whole thing wants to break. But now I'm very carefully going to pick it up, and you have cups. You must have the plastic on the outside. That's like the biggest thing. Next class, I'll remind you. Plastic on the outside, and you're gonna put in the cup, and it's not gonna totally fit. But it's gonna go in there a little bit. And it's gonna go in there enough that the cup will hold onto your form for now. So you can relax a little bit. And then you kind of push it against the side. And I did this last year. I like to see what happens when I do things wrong. I did this last year with no plastic on purpose. I could not get it out. Like, it looks like you would be able to get it out. I was like, that's fine, I'll cut the cup. I could not get it out. So you have to have this piece of plastic on the inside because your clay's gonna shrink and then it'll pop away with the plastic. But without that, forget it. Now I do have a seam on the inside. So there's a seam where my two pieces of clay came together on the inside. Now I can like hold this whole thing, and now I can be really tough because I'm pushing against the cup, and I'm really, really stitching it up now. And now I'm getting like crazy. I'm stitching it up like crazy. And my hand's underneath, so I can really stitch it up. And it's not gonna look perfect, but I'm really just making sure I am attaching this piece of clay together. That's like super duper duper important. And then when you're all done, you can kind of smooth it out a little bit. It's not gonna be great right now. You could do the best you can. If, like me, you squished it too much, sometimes I take my clay knife and I'll just kind of even it out a little bit. And this is gonna be like a wet noodle, except we're gonna let it dry just a little. And each time it dries just a little, it'll get a little stronger and a little stronger and a little stronger. So this is where you'll stop next time. And instead of putting this in a bag and cleaning up your individual bag, I'm doing something a little crazy. So you guys just stay right here. I'll show it to you. I have these trays. I have 2 per class. And I call them the parking lots. I bring the parking lots out. Every class, including today, you'll get to use the parking lot. You're gonna put your clay, cup and all, in one space in the parking lot, and that's gonna be your space. So today you're gonna write your name on the piece of tape that's in front of your cup, and that's gonna be your spot. And then I have these big pieces of plastic. I cover the entire tray with plastic and I put it back. So the reason I do that is because I can sometimes open up the plastic a little bit, let the air go in, dry our cups up a little bit, and then close it back up. So I'm gonna do that, and every day I'll take it out and put it back in. But starting today, we will put our cups there, and then next time you'll get your clay. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes for clay cleanup most days, because we have to clean up all of our stuff and put it all back. It's kind of crazy. By the way, I'm wearing a smock. Clay does not stain. It comes right out easy peasy, but it is like a mess. Like my hands are a mess. It's like rolling around in sidewalk chalk. So I do recommend a smock, but don't go crazy if you get clay on you. It does wash right off. Any other questions or comments? All right, cut. Thank you. Hopefully that'll go live for all of my friends. You want to stop streaming?